All right, today we have a very special guest. This is Cory Muscara, and a lot of you have been asking me about my mindfulness practices. I've learned some of the greatest mindfulness practices of my life through Cory. To give you some background on who he is, I did a 10-day silent meditation, which you guys think is crazy. This guy shaved his head, did 6 months in silent meditation in Burma, and I'll let him tell you about that experience. He's currently on the faculty of both UPenn and Columbia, and he has a mindfulness program which is launching in September that is promoted by and endorsed by someone whose name we can't reference right now, but let's just say he's a multiple-time best-selling author, and his last few launches have done 7 figures apiece. So this person thought highly enough of Cory and his practice that he is endorsing Cory's work. So you guys are getting to sit in on this introduction for free, which is huge, and I couldn't be more excited to present Cory to you. He's actually become a really close personal friend over the past few months since we met each other, or about a year ago since we met each other. So Cory, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, buddy. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And man, why don't you, you have such a compelling story, right, about how you found mindfulness, because you're different than most mindfulness instructors that I've ever come across. You've got a really relatable story, especially for the people that listen to my work. So why don't you just give a little bit of background on how you found it?
Sure. So I think when most people think of someone who teaches meditation or mindfulness, they think this person must be a hippie or super spiritual or even like deeply suffering and looking for some relief. That wasn't really the case for me. I first came to this because I had a hippie girlfriend in college who was interested in meditation, and she kind of, I started meditating. I never told her this, but I started meditating more or less to impress her. Yep. Didn't work out, the relationship, she broke up with me, but she got me into the practice. And at that point in my life, I was waking up 20 to 30 times a night, and my sleep was terrible, my mind was constantly racing. And after doing this practice of meditating 3 times a week for 15 minutes, that's all I was doing at that point, my sleep went from waking up 20 to 30 times a night to waking up 2 to 3 times a night. And anyone with insomnia, that's a radical shift. I noticed that, this was in college, so I noticed that my productivity was improving. I was doing better in school. I was able to focus more. And I noticed that just my general stress levels went down. Nothing in my external world had changed. I still had a ton of work to do. I still didn't know what I was doing in the future. Now I was single, but there was a general contentment that sort of arose. Nothing euphoric, but it was pleasant. It was nice. Yeah. And so all of that became very compelling. And simultaneously, I was originally going to go into business. I thought I was going to work on Wall Street. I had an internship set up on Wall Street. And the whole economics department decided we were going to go to the New York Stock Exchange and meet with this multi-billionaire hedge fund manager. And everyone was like, if you're going to meet anyone or get anywhere in the field, this is where you want to go. This is the guy you want to meet. So I said, cool, maybe he'll re-inspire me to go into business. He gave a 2-hour talk, and it just sucked my soul right out of my body. And I was like, I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but it's not that. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do what he was doing. I didn't want to end up like him. Mm-hmm. And there was enough wisdom not to generalize him to all of the finance world, because I know a lot of people in finance and business that are very content and fulfilled.
And you do a lot of work inside the financial arena,
and
right?
That's where it's come full circle, because now I end up doing this work in the finance world. But if there was the potential that I could end up like that, that terrified me. And so I really started asking, what is it that I actually want? And it kept coming down to the cliche answer of, I want to be happy. Mm-hmm. Didn't really know what that looked like. But it's interesting, when you do set an intention, certain things seem to present themselves. Or maybe you're just more inclined to see those things that were already there. And that brought me eventually to the work of mindfulness, meditation, and positive psychology, which in a short period of time just became my professional path.
Right on. And so you've done some work with law firms in New York City, some corporations, some insurance companies, financial services institutions. Like, what are some of the themes that you're starting to see as you're interacting with those groups of high-flying professionals?
Yeah, well, you get a lot of type A personalities, and I think one of the biggest things is people think that success and well-being can't exist in the same realm. They can't exist simultaneously, and if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to compromise your well-being in your life. And at least what the research is suggesting is that that's just not true. And people that take care of themselves, that do nurture themselves in ways that, you know, they're taking care of their sleep, they're taking care of themselves physically through exercise, and they're taking care of their minds through practices like mindfulness meditation, and they're able to show up more energized, fully there, fully present, are actually more successful in the workplace. And their emotional intelligence is higher. They're better able to relate to their coworkers, their boss, their constituents on all levels. So helping people see that in order to take care of other people and to thrive, you first need to be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and mindfulness is business relevant. At least that's what I found out in my own personal experience. So one of the things that in talking to people who are very interested in adopting a mindfulness practice is they say, I've tried it before, I'm no good at it, my mind is racing, and I've kind of given up on it. It's not for me, or I need some guidance. How do you talk to that person?
Yeah. Well, I think when a lot of people first think about starting a meditation practice, they immediately, a couple things. Well, one, I gotta meditate 20 to 30 minutes a day, or 45 minutes a day. Especially these type A personalities. Yeah. It's like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it right. And I said, all right, let's step off the gas for a moment. And if you haven't been doing this at any point in your life, we don't need to jump into 45 minutes of practice. Maybe we'll build up to that. Let's just start with 1 minute. Can we be in this moment, be present, fully engaged perhaps with just a few breaths for 1 minute, and make that your practice each day. And you'd be blown away by the impact that has on people. Just to take 1 minute out of their day to stop what they're doing, step off that treadmill of constantly trying to get someplace else, cross things off the to-do list, and check in, that then bleeds into other moments of their life. But the biggest obstacle I think people have when they get into meditation is they think they need to clear their minds. They think they need to stop their mind from thinking. And I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
So, I spent 6 months in silence practicing mindfulness meditation, living as a monk. And that was my only job for a 6-month period. Mm-hmm. From the moment I woke up at 3 a.m. to the moment we go to bed at 10 p.m., that's all we had to do. And the longest I went without thinking, maybe a couple minutes.
Yep.
It's not like the thoughts didn't settle down radically, but they never completely stopped.
Even after months of doing nothing but meditating, still just a couple of minutes, right, was your best.
It was the best. And a lot of times it was, they'd come up every 10 seconds or so. The difference was, though, in the beginning, when the thoughts would be there, I would be caught up in them. I wouldn't even know that I was thinking. I would be swept away by them. Yep. As time went on, I got very good at just being aware of those thoughts. Yep. And there's a difference between being caught up in your thoughts and being aware that you're thinking. As soon as you're aware that you're thinking, you're able to respond to them rather than react to them.
Right on.
And it was Viktor Frankl. I know you're a Viktor Frankl fan. He says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom.
Yeah.
Unless we can see that there's some space between the thought and how we respond to the thought, we can't lead our lives with any sort of intentionality, purpose, or wisdom. And what this practice allows us to do is just get familiar with the thinking mind so that we're not enslaved to it.
That is so big. And one of the other things that you talk about is that the act of being aware of your thoughts and that they're drifting, and then being able to bring that back to the present moment, that is just as much meditation as clearing your mind, right? Because you're strengthening that muscle of awareness, right?
That's right. That's right. So the whole process, right? Let's say we'll do a little bit of this in a short while. Let's say we are focusing on the breath. Focusing on the breath, feeling the breath. It's like, oh, I really want a cheeseburger. Okay, so you notice that the mind has wandered, and then with that awareness, you gently bring the attention back to the breath. Now that bringing your attention back to this breath is like if you were to go to the gym, and let's say you wanted to strengthen your biceps, one thing you would do is bicep curls. And each time you do another rep, you're beginning to strengthen the muscle. We know it's a little different than that, but over the course of 2 months of doing that, what's going to happen? Your biceps going to get stronger, more functional, and bigger. Well, in the same way that when we bring our attention back to this moment, it's like another rep for the brain. Mm-hmm. And the brain is like a muscle, like any other part of the body. We do that consistently, that muscle becomes stronger. And the ability to focus becomes stronger, the ability to experience joy and empathy, compassion, all of these capacities of mind develop. And we're seeing that not only through thousands of years of practice, but also in the research now, which is very exciting.
And one more thing before we get into the actual, Cory's going to go through a demonstration of how to begin part of your mindfulness practice. You talk about becoming aware of your thoughts without judgment, which is a huge thing, because I know that a lot of people that I speak with and work with, there's that inner voice, right, that's pretty tough on them. And I remember one of the things that you had said is, if that inner voice talked to you the way, well, if another person were to talk to you the way that your inner voice talks to you, you'd want to hit that guy in the face, right?
Yeah.
And that's true. And can you speak a little bit about the importance of being aware of your thoughts without judgment, why that's important, and then how to cultivate some of that?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't take long to see how judgmental we are toward ourselves. All you need to do is pay attention to your mind for like a minute, and you'll just see that it's like, I'm the best thing since sliced rye bread, or I'm the worst thing since Nickelback. No offense to any Nickelback fans.
That's harsh, man.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I just hear that people don't like
Yeah,
Nickelback.
no.
I don't even listen to
No one knows why. But
we don't really know
they're
why.
just terrible.
But if we put everything into a category, like this, don't like this is pretty, this is ugly, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. And some of that's helpful in life. That's how we create laws. That's how we make some decisions. But if we're constantly living our lives in those categories of like, this is good, this is worth pursuing, then what ends up happening is we miss out on all these other moments of our lives. Like, okay, the weekend is what I'm working towards, so I just have to plow through the next 5 days just so I can get there. Well, then what happens? You get to the weekend and it's over, and then it's the next 5 days. It's like, well, now I got to get through so I could get there. And it's as if, like, once we get to that point, then everything will come together for me and my life will be happy. But it doesn't work like that. It never have we arrived at one place and then all of life just seems, oh, it all makes sense. It's not like that. We habituate and then we are longing perhaps for the next thing. Mm-hmm. So the judgment of like, this is good, this is bad, becomes the foundation for us striving to get to some other moment or to get out of this moment. And it also becomes the foundation for this very critical, berating mentality that we have toward ourselves. Mm-hmm. And as you were pointing to, one of my things, if anyone were to talk to us like that, we'd knock them out. I mean, we wouldn't accept it. Yeah. And yet it's perfectly fine for us to say, what's wrong with you? How could you do that? You're not smart, you're not good enough, you're not good looking enough. You got to go through this life by yourself. You could have all these friends and all these great people with you, but in the end, you're the one that can experience your emotions, pain, tragedy, grief. And if you're your worst critic in that process, you're not going to get through this thing alive.
Yeah.
So my thing is, how can you become your own best friend? And I know that might sound a little bit corny, but we all need friends, and we look for them externally. Why not actually start here? And I'll tell you just from experience, it makes life a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
And more enjoyable.
That's really profound stuff, man. So thank you for sharing just a little bit of your nuggets of wisdom. I've had Cory in front of my former sales team. I've had Cory come in and do a presentation and demonstration to a men's group that I run on a monthly basis. And I can tell you in both instances, I can't get people to leave, right? Like, because they're just, like, his messages connect so well, and it's so relevant to the things that we are dealing with and going through. So I could talk to you about this stuff for hours, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pause on this for right now so that Cory can lead you through a little bit of a demonstration so that you can get your practice kick-started. Cory, thank you very much, and I'll hand the floor to you.
Sounds good.